Greetings, Federalism students. This is MAPA 5311, Intergovernmental Relations. I'm Dr. Abernathy. Many of you have had me before, but this is my first time taking on this class. I've had it previously, but I taught it the way it was handed to me, and this time I'm doing things my own way. So I'm going to cross myself, and here we go. So what is federalism? Basically, we have different levels of government. In a federal system, rather than a unitary system, you have more than one level. So instead of just one federal government that handles everything as like a central power, you have subsidiaries like states and municipalities, etc. And federalism is basically understanding that some of these have roles and powers that are a consequence of the U.S. Constitution. And that's what the text that I have picked for us will remind us. What powers are expressed, enumerated, what are reserved for the states under the 10th Amendment. And then when we get to the state level, what powers the local government has, which you'll learn is basically whatever the state says they have. So pretty much nothing. But basically, you've got these roles and powers, and it's a question of keeping them in check. Some of these are changed with politics. Some of these are changed with administrative actions, especially during the New Deal, during the Great Depression. FDR did a lot of things that changed it substantially. When we switched to community-based development block grants in the War on Poverty under LBJ, that changed substantially too. But also, the court steps in and changes things. So these things change with time. You have what is supposed to be the state's purview and what's supposed to be the federal government's role. But then again, we have the courts that come in to say, oh no, in this case, they're within their powers or this was overreach, etc. Now, the idea of what should be cannot be known. So we can know what the Constitution says. We can know what the court decisions have been. We can know history and how it's been interpreted. But, the idea of what should the government do at each level? Should the federal government be in control of this? Should the state government be in control of that? That cannot be known. Why? Oh, man. The answer is the nature of facts versus opinions. This is from Inside Out. I love that movie, where these facts and opinions look so similar. Don't worry, it happens all the time. Well, basically, we have facts and opinions, and they always get mixed up. But there's something called positive and normative. And if you've had one of my classes before, you know that a positive statement is a fact-based statement. When I say a fact, it is something that can be verified. It can be shown true or false. Now, a normative statement is not something that can be shown true or false because it's someone's opinion. What's better than, is chocolate better than vanilla? Well, you can't prove that true or false. When it comes to something that happened, proving someone's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt in court. 1 + 1 = 2. It doesn't equal 17 or 33 or sparkly. It equals 2. So positive is something that can be demonstrated. It can be verified. Normative is something that can't be verified because it's someone's opinion, it's someone's values. And we all have different values. We all have our own sets of values on what we think the role of government is, how we think things are better handled, are best handled, and that kind of shapes the way we look at things. And because we are public administrators, we have to acknowledge what our values are on the way things are best done, and what the positive, the facts are, and what we can do, what is in our lane versus outside of our lane. So this is a super fun class to teach because I prefer facts over opinions. I really do. I hate subjectivity. I hate, having my own opinion about, whether your paper is an A or a B or a C. So I do everything I can to avoid that. It's so much easier when it's, correct or incorrect. But unfortunately, we don't have that luxury as public administrators. We have to deal with amorphous, value-laden things where you as a professional are going to have to make a judgment call. So that's what I want to prepare us for in this class, in our careers. So like I said, this is a challenge. It is easy to teach facts. I much prefer it. I do everything I can to take any kind of subjectivity out of it. And, just grade your papers on, is this there or not? Is it true or not? If answers are correct, they're right. If they're incorrect, they're wrong. For the sake of fairness, that's how exams are going to have to be in this class. I changed from the original textbook, and my apologies to anybody that bought the book before I changed it. It was another book that was a bunch of opinion essays on how the government, different levels of government work best with other levels of government. I switched this to an open educational resource, meaning free for you, OpenStax American Government Second Edition textbook. And this is because you really need to learn, what the objective facts are behind the forming of the Constitution. I know we all learned this in undergrad, but we need to review it. And then we need to review it through the lens of our own understanding and our enhanced understanding as advanced degree holders. You guys either have master's degrees or you're going to have those fancy MPA letters after your name when you're done with this. So for the sake of fairness, I'm going to give you guys exams, and it's all going to be stuff with a clear right and wrong answer, correct or incorrect. But for the sake of competence, you, as a professional in public administration, need an understanding of both facts and competing values, because you're going to be making judgment calls. The world we serve isn't so cut and dry. It'd be so great if, we knew that this is the right way to do things, or this is the wrong way to do things. We don't know that. Oftentimes we learn from error. It's trial and error. And so in order to be the most competent public administrative professionals we can be, I want to make sure that you know the facts, the indisputable facts that can be verified true or false, but also knowing the competing values that are out there that disagree with you, and also you understanding your own set of values, what you think is important, how you think things should be run, because you're the professional that's going to be deciding these things. So for the sake of you being competent, we have got to read those graduate level texts in the O'Toole and Christensen book that can have these competing ideas of, this is not the state's role, this is definitely federal role, or no, the federal government needs to stay out of this. And that way, I'm hoping that helps form us into well-rounded professionals in the public sector. And like I said, it begins with knowledge of self. You can't look at other people's viewpoints unless you really know your own, because we have a issue out there. I hear this a lot. Reality is not subjective. Our perception of it certainly is. You hear, well, if this is, true to you, it's true. Well, yeah, that's delusion. I may be absolutely think it's completely true that if I go downstairs and stick my hand on a hot stove, I'm not going to get burned, but I'm going to get burned. I don't have to believe in gravity to fall down a flight of stairs if I'm not paying attention. So reality is what it is, and we don't get to decide what it is. We need to understand what it is. But our perception of things really is subjective. How we view things as true or not true really depends on the way we look at it. And we have things called confirmation bias, and that plays heavily into our perceptions. And if you guys have taken research methods class in the past, or my research methods class in this program, you know that we set out to vindicate our own belief system. We also have a little thing called cognitive dissonance. It's not comfortable to be proven wrong. You go out and you try to vindicate yourself and like, I'm right. It's not comfortable. It causes dissonance. It causes a psychological discomfort to be wrong. And so, when you're so certain that, this person that you look up to and admire is a wonderful person, and they're faithful and loving, and then you see them do something absolutely horrible. Like, you say, hey, Dr. Abernathy is a nice lady. She's loved by children and animals. And then you see me totally kick a kitten. Well, the first thing you're going to think, even if you saw with your own eyes that I kicked that kitten, is, oh no, she must have not been paying attention. She must have not seen it. No, you think of other reasons not to believe what contradicts what your original belief was. And it's important to understand what your original belief was, and if it was formed based on a good knowledge of the person. If everything you know of me is that I would never do that to a kitten, and I would never do that to a kitten, y'all, then it makes sense to compare that to the evidence that you have already. But if you don't know me and you've just decided because you're a nice charitable person that, oh, I'm sweet and I would never do that, well, you might be wrong. So it's important to know what your worldview is. We will all have our own opinions and values, but they need to be informed by reality. They need to be informed by facts. And so this class examines opinions and values against newly covered facts and challenging viewpoints. When I say newly covered facts, a lot of the stuff you may already know, but you wouldn't be in this class if you knew all of it. So you're going to get some new facts delivered to you, and you're going to get some new perspectives delivered to you. So you're free to have your own values and opinions, and I hope you do. There's something that really disturbs me about people that don't have their own values. I'm like, what do you stand for? What makes you tick? So yeah, you're going to have your own opinions and values. I have mine, but we are trying to make sure in this class that they are informed by facts, that they're not, formed by ignorance. Because if I'm ignorant that stove is going to burn me, then I'm more likely to put my hand on it, right? If I'm aware that it's hot, I'm not. So that's what knowledge is. It's knowing better and doing better because we know better. So this is an exercise in ethics as well. If any of you are familiar with those that do degrees in social services like therapy, LMFT, MSWs. I originally was a social worker. I can't call myself that now because I don't have a license anymore, and it's a legally protected term. But the idea behind therapists having to get therapy in order to practice is because you have to be able to know yourself and your own issues. Hurting people hurt people. So this is a chance to be introspective on how we practice in our civic political leadership. And this reminds me of my intro to social work class. I took it in fall of 2001. So it started at the end of August 2001. And the first assignment I was ever given was Worldview statement. And September 11th happened really quickly after that. In fact, I was in intro to social work class when it happened. So you see how that could change people's worldviews. They change with environmental forces, age, circumstances. And that must be reassessed every so often. People's values change as they grow up. So perhaps this is a baseline for that. So we're going to do our worldview statements in this class. And because it's specifically in the realm of politics, of course, our other views on things are going to influence politics as well. Don't get me wrong. But because it's specifically in the realm of politics, worldview could also be referred to as an ideology. Personally, I find ideologies a little bit problematic because I found that people that have already decided that they are this or that tend to prefabricate a position, and then they don't take in knowledge and make a decision based on that worldview. Instead, they let the worldview make the decision for them. So if somebody they know holds their worldview, and they have this position, then that's just my position. So, if I happen to be my tribe, my ideology happens to be, this is an example, one that's young earth creationist, like some Christian denominations believe that the earth is 6,000 years old. And then someone brings up something like evolution. I'm not necessarily looking at evolution. I've just decided that because my tribe doesn't believe in the earth being older than a certain length of time, then this must not be true. It's easier to have a predetermined position on things than it is to actually take in the knowledge, process it, and form your own conclusion. And that's something that I've tried to stay away from as a scientist. I do have my own worldview, and I do have my own beliefs, at which I will, for the sake of spurring the discussion in Flipgrid, explain what it is as an example. I still try to look at things as objectively as possible. And the odds are good, this is fascinating, y'all, that your ideology could very well be a consequence of your physiology. And I want to explain this. I was presenting a paper at a political science conference in Austin 2 years ago. And this woman showed me the study where they did an fMRI, which is a functional MRI in deep, deep parts of the brain. And they showed people pictures. And they looked at what part of the brain lit up when they saw those pictures. And when they showed people pictures of asylum seekers down at the border and people that were trying to get into the United States, those that have a more liberal ideology, the part of their brain that lit up was the part associated with sadness and compassion and empathy. When it came to conservatives, the part of the brain that lit up was the side associated with fear. And when I learned that, I'm like, wow, that makes sense. When I look at people that say, oh, these are invaders, these MS-13 gang members, yeah, they're perceiving it in a totally different way than other people that say, well, these are people that are, fleeing gang violence and need to be led in our country. So it's amazing how much of what we perceive could be built in our brain. So I don't know, but it could be a consequence of your physiology. So regardless of where we get our worldview or our political ideology, whether it's the same as the way we were raised, whether it's completely different than the way we were raised, whether it just slices right in the middle and, splits the difference between your adult views and the views that you're raised with as a child, I think we need to know ourselves. And that's why discussion assignments will be oriented toward that end. It's the fact that in your first assignment with OpenStax, the OER textbook that I've chosen for you, it's all about how, why is there government? How is the government run? Things like, market failure. We have public goods that, we can't keep people from receiving them if they don't pay for them. And, just because I receive it doesn't mean you can't have it. Just because I have clean air to breathe doesn't mean you don't have clean air to breathe. But if I'm wearing my shoes, it means you can't wear my shoes. So ideas about excludability and rivalrousness and, ideas of direct democracy versus representative democracy. All of these things kind of shape, I think, the way we view intergovernmental relations. It definitely shaped the framers and how they put together the Constitution. And we're going to have a little debate later about federalism versus anti-federalism. Would you have been on the side that insisted on maintaining as much power for the states as possible, or would you have been more on the side of a strong federal government? So the discussion assignments will be looking at those different debates. And I think it's interesting that our original worldview filters down into the consequential worldview. And I think that people that have a orientation more towards states' rights rather than a strong federal government will have similar perspectives on how they apply that on modern day issues later in the course. So I think that could be fun. Don't worry about it. Politics are scary, but trust me, I'm getting there. I know, politics are contentious. We're taught that it's rude to talk about politics and religion. The thing is, we got to rise above it because that's our job. As public administrators, we don't have the luxury of not talking about these things, of, not talking about, how we think the government should act in certain circumstances when we are running the government. We're not the politicians, no, but we're the administrators, we're the rule makers. So this class offers a chance to rise above contentious politics. I want you to be as normative as you want to be. You have values as the day is long. And I'm really pleased about that. I want to have people in civil service that care about things, that believe things should be a certain way. Whether I agree with you or not, it doesn't matter. I will never wrongly correct you for a difference of opinion, since it's impossible. How am I going to correct you when I can't know if you're correct or not, or if I'm correct or not? So I'm never going to say, just because I happen to disagree with you on something, that you're wrong. Obviously, I feel like my way is the right way, or I wouldn't have that way. But I don't know it. That's why it's normative. It can't be verified. Likewise, your classmates will not either. And if they do, I'll gently address it and they'll be asked to stop. This is a safe place to share your worldview and your values. Please believe me when I say that. The only corrections are if you make a positive statement that is objectively false. So if you say, my worldview is, things should be this way because XYZ, and XYZ is not true, then that will be corrected. And I actually encourage everyone to, if you see something that's objectively not true, to fix that. And also, you can have feelings about, this is how I really think things are. Well, if you can't know it for sure, if you can't verify it, if you can't have empirical evidence, then it's not substantiated. So the only corrections are if you make positive statements you cannot make. If you ever feel like I am not being even-handed toward you, or anyone. It's not disrespectful to pointedly tell me that. Please do so in a charitable way, because I promise you, I don't want to be biased. If I did not, give enough credence to something somebody said, then I want to give the chance to fix that. So I appreciate you letting me know if you ever feel like there's a way that your normative values are not being respected in this class. I was always afraid to speak up because I was afraid of being discriminated against. I was afraid that, oh man, this teacher is going to disagree with me and, think, that I'm, closed-minded or bleeding heart or whatever it is they happen to think, because I didn't know, what their worldview or ideology was. And I was always afraid that was going to come back and bite me. And I give you my word, I will not do that. I absolutely will not do that. In fact, I grade things anonymously. So even though from your your reflection question answers, I can maybe figure out who it is, and I could be biased there, I'm going to do my best not to. And I've also come up with a plan where if you feel like that might be happening, I will have a secondary grader to look at it and make sure that I've followed the rubric and I've been as objective as possible. Because I don't want you guys to be afraid to speak up in this class. Because I happen to be teaching this class and my opinion differs from yours does not mean I am right. I don't know I'm right. Obviously, I wouldn't believe what I believe if I didn't think I was, but I don't know it. It's a value. It's normative. So, I've studied this longer than you have by virtue of the fact that I've got, PhD in it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that my values are better or worse than anyone else's. So that's something to keep in mind. Also, guys, this is great. My worldview is likely not what you think. My worldview matters and transparency matters, so I'm not biased against you. I've made it a point to try to keep my worldview and my values out of classes as much as possible. Because it doesn't matter, and I think it's unprofessional. Who cares what I think about things? But it's important for me to do it in this class. I need to be transparent. So, if you come to some conclusion that, oh, well, she disagrees with me on immigration, or she disagrees with me on gun control, or whatever it is we're talking about, I think it's important that you be able to see what my values are. Because binary, that I am not. That ain't me, babe. No. We tend to think in twos as people. It's this or that, black or white. You're either Republican or Democrat. You're conservative or you're liberal. And I believe in right and wrong. Yeah, absolutely. I believe in right and wrong. But I don't believe in red or blue. Just because I am against this doesn't mean I am for that. Or just because I'm for that doesn't mean I'm against this. And I found it really funny in the past, because me keeping it to myself to try to be professional and whatnot when I was teaching undergrads, when I made attempts to give equal time in class to both conservative students and liberal students, the conservative students always assume I'm a Republican, and the liberal students always think that I'm a Democrat. It's so funny when I would have students like, oh yeah, this Dr. Harvey, that was my name then, you're gonna love her. She is so liberal. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And then I'd have another student like, oh man, she's so cool. She's so conservative. I'm like, I don't know. And I have a feeling that it's confirmation bias and maybe cognitive dissonance that, okay, you'll want to like me. So confirmation bias is, oh yeah, she's cool because she believes like I do. Or, I like her, so I want to believe that she thinks the same way I do. And, the truth is, y'all, my worldview is public record. I'm an elective official for a third party. This is Googleable. You don't have to. You don't need to. I'm not encouraging you to do it, but I am a delegate for a third party. I represent the state of Texas. And so my worldview, I have a freaking manifesto that I put out there with my worldview on it when I was campaigning for my position in my party. So if anybody wants to know, well, she's just against me on this or that, well, you know what? I could very well be. differing in opinion on this or that with you. It's easy to find out. It's for public consumption. So if you ever want to know, then you can look it up. But please don't think that oh well, she's definitely a Republican and that's why she challenged my views on this, or she's definitely a Democrat and that's why she challenged my views on that. Nope, I am none of the above. So I hope that makes you feel a little bit better about coming forward and the fact that we are all going to be nice and civil to each other. So how these Canvas assignments work. Quizzes are objective and they cover the OER, Open Educational Resources, OpenStax reading. Some of this you might just have to skim through because it's a review for the most part. Now the O'Toole and Christensen text that's known as AIR in your syllabus, these are graded by an objective rubric. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves because I don't want to overwhelm you with information, which is why I also didn't do this last Thursday. I didn't think there was enough time to get into it. So I will get into that a little bit more next Monday so we don't get ahead of ourselves. But they're objective. It's in the reading, so that's where you can go for the answers. And the quizzes are not timed. Your exams will be because, I want you to, not like search for answers. I want you to actually go back and prepare for your exams and learn it. You don't learn it if you're looking things up. If you look up a phone number every time, you're not going to learn it. If you try to memorize it, you're more likely to learn it. So that's how your Canvas assignments work in this class. Here's how your Flipgrid assignments work. Discussions are graded by a rubric also. Here's that rubric. I'm looking for 4 things and they're each worth 25 points. Did you answer the question of the week? Like this week's question is, what is your view on the role of government, the proper role of government? Why does government exist? What should government do? Did you answer that question? Did you support it with positive evidence? Did you say things that were not just values, but are common knowledge? Things like in our textbook we talk about market failure. If people get things for free that they don't have to pay for, there's no incentive to pay for them. So that's one of the reasons why we have taxes. It passes the hat around and it covers things like national defense and having firefighters come to your house if it's on fire, or come to your neighbor's house before it burns down your house. So you need to support it with some sort of positive evidence. You don't have to cite it, but it's got to be something that can be verified. And if, by the way, just nota bene, if it's not true and someone verifies that it's not true, then you're going to have to answer for that. Then I want you to engage with another student and respond to those that engage with you. And like I said, each are worth 25 points if you did it, 0 if you didn't. So I'm not making a judgment call on how good you answered the question, or how good you supported it, or how good your engagement was or your response was. I'm just looking at did you do it? Did you fulfill the requirements? It's present, it gets points. If it's absent, it doesn't get points. And that's my way of making this as least subjective and most objective as possible. So that is how this works. Now keep in mind, if you don't engage, if you don't post until Sunday night, then nobody can engage with you. If you answer a question, no one can answer it. And no one can really, it doesn't give a lot of, I don't want to say no one, it doesn't give a lot of opportunity for people to ask you questions and you to respond. So you need to engage earlier in the week to do this. Because it doesn't involve a lot of prepping, then there's no reason why it should take too long for you to get this ball rolling. So, like I said, absent or present, no subjectivity. Whew. So this week, reading quiz, read OpenStax Chapter 1. These are facts about how worldviews shape the Constitution. We're actually getting more into that next week with Chapter 2, but these are facts about, definitions and worldviews about elite rule, rivalrousness, excludability, public goods, common goods, etc. So these are facts, and they help shape your worldview, and they do help shape the Constitution. History's a fact. Answers are right or wrong on that one. Quiz covers these facts. So that's all you got to do with that. You can bookmark the text, but it's accessible through Canvas once published. I'm very sorry for y'all. A lot of things have been going in and out because I've been trying to copy things, and that's an issue that I'm having. It's a glitch that I'm trying to learn with Canvas. In this week's discussion, watch the Flipgrid focus with my answer the question, what is your worldview on the role of government? This is an example of format, but you can answer any way you please. I am going to try to use my manifesto as an example. Please, anything you want to do, if you're camera shy, you can do that. You don't actually have to appear on camera, but you have to narrate. Everyone has 90 seconds, so this is going to be an elevator version. And make sure to engage with others before the week is up and leave time to engage. So questions, course Q&A board's open, y'all. Like I said, this is my first attempt to design this course from scratch. There will be oversights. I am off the charts ADD. It's annoying and kind of amusing at the same time. And I make a lot of bonehead mistakes. Please let me know on the course Q&A board. If I do, I want to fix it. I'm still struggling to figure out things with Canvas. Any errors I make will be compensated. So anytime that you lose with me getting something fixed, I will tack that time on. I promise that any bonehead mistakes I make will not affect you. Alrighty, so I hope you guys have a great week.